Thomas, Thomas, can you hear me?
Hey, hi Hashim, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine. Last minute panic as usual.
No worries, no worries.
Are you
So
well?
I'm very well. Yeah, I'm very well. So just a few
Yep.
configurations with this Zoom recording. Let's see. Okay, so I need to turn my video on, and for me to do that, apparently you need to make me host. So I
Okay.
think if you hover over the Thomas Newman panel in the top right, there's three little dots
Three
there.
dots. Yep.
I think if you pull that down,
Make
you
host.
can make me host.
Yep. Done it.
That's great. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is, let's see. There we are. Excellent. Great.
Excellent.
How are you keeping, Hashim?
Not bad, mate, considering the age and the mileage. So, all right. And you're looking happy and healthy, I'm pleased to say.
Well, yeah, I suppose, yeah.
Good for you.
A little tired. We have a little almost 2-year-old, our first, who's keeping us very, very busy. So we're very happy. Yeah.
I'll bet.
Yeah.
A little girl, yes?
Yes, a little girl,
Oh,
Martinez.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Have you any kids?
I have. Well, fortunately, they're not children anymore, but I mean, they're adults and out in the world. But yeah, 24 and 21. So
okay, very good, excellent.
Yeah. And they're in a different country, so
okay,
less stress.
Yeah. You've done your job. They're out of the nest, and that's
exactly.
Yeah. Very good.
So I'm raring to go. Everything's fine.
Excellent.
Just a couple of questions, technical ones, really. I made a list of them because I'm an accountant. The first is, okay, so the impression I'm getting is that basically there are 3 segments to this, right? There's the intro.
You can do that.
There we go.
The webinar being recorded. Excellent. So we know now that, okay, that's taken care of. So what I will do then, Hashim, is share my screen. So I think you need to stop sharing your screen first, and then I will share mine. And let's see. Let's see
Share. Okay.
There we go. Excellent. Okay, so we're formally starting. Excellent. Hi everyone. This is Thomas Newman of VIVA Financial Tuition, and I'm gate crashing Hashim Kumar's webinar today. So I'm going to talk for about 10 minutes to let you know about VIVA's courses for the MCS for May 22. And then Hashim is going to take over and walk you through the first half, more or less, of the pre-scene today. So pre-scene, hot off the press. It was released yesterday by CIMA. And today's session is free. Okay, so it's open to a wide audience, and you're going to learn plenty today. We hope you like what you see. We hope you learn from what you are seeing today. And for those of you who are interested in taking a course, and there are good reasons to take a course, VIVA is an excellent option, and I'm going to talk you through the course options. So first of all, why would you take a course? Because I know a lot of people are happy to go it alone. Certainly you can do that. You can go it alone and work on the pre-scene on your own and review the theory, etc. But it's going to be, I think, less interesting. Your odds of passing are diminished. You can pass certainly, but they're diminished. If you take a course, on the other hand, it's going to be more enjoyable. It's less painful. You're going to learn more because obviously you're drawing on the experience of a tutor who's seen this kind of thing many times before. You're drawing on the VIVA student community as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So lots of good reasons to take a course. So VIVA has been doing this for a long time. We've been analyzing cases for CIMA for 5.5 years. So in that time, we've analyzed about 50 plus cases. We've had World Prize winners in that time. We've had students that are going through very challenging circumstances. So we've seen students of all types and helped students of all types. And in that period, we've helped about 8,000 students or so go through their CIMA exams. So we're quite experienced with this. And we're very proud to have won the CIMA Global Pass Rate Excellence Award for 2020. So there were only 6 tuition providers that got that award worldwide. There was ourselves, Kaplan, BPP, HTFT, First Intuition, and Wisdom Business Academy. So only 6 tuition providers won that award. So it was a significant stamp of approval, let's say, from CIMA itself. And what I want to show you now is the course options that exist for the MCS for May 22, if you want to take the paid course with VIVA. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Just bear with me. Okay, so I think you can see that, Ashim. Yeah, okay. So in the MCS course, there's about 50 plus hours of course content between webinars like this, workshops, office hours with Ashim. All of those live sessions are recorded, by the way, and put up on the website to view for the duration of the course. There are 5 mock exams, very realistic, very close to the real thing. They come with model solutions. Depending on the version of the course you opt for, there is marking included for all 5 mock exams, but that depends on which option you go for. I'll talk about the different course options in a minute. As I said, you've got the live webinars, workshops, and on-demand video lectures at vivatuition.com as well. And depending on the course option you go for, whether it's the standard course or the elite course, if you go for the elite course, you've got a lot of one-to-one contact with Ashim. There are office hour sessions. There are intimate workshop sessions, very interactive and exam focused. And you have access to Ashim on a private forum, which I will show you in a minute. Okay, so the course syllabus, this 50 plus hours of content, is laid out as follows. So you've got a timetable to work to here. There is a pre-course work section, okay, which is on-demand recordings and questions. So we highly recommend that you go through this 8 hours of pre-course work. There is a review of the main theories of E2, the same for F2, and the same for P2. So what we're doing here is high-level review of those theories. What are the main theories? They're reminding you what they are. There's some questions at the end of those sections as well to check that you actually have your technical knowledge up to date. Then there are some lectures on preparing for the case. So what's your role as a finance manager? What's expected of you there? How do you make effective use of the pre-scene? How do you apply theory correctly, etc.? Then there are videos on what you do on the day of the exam. So understanding, first of all, what the examiner is actually looking for, using your time well, how do you plan your answer, where do you win easy marks, etc. And finally, there is an introduction to the MCS. So a kind of a high-level overview of the exam setting. What do you see on the day of the exam with screenshots of what you see? So demystifying the whole thing. So that's about 8 hours of pre-course work that we recommend that you do. Week 1, the first session is today, okay? So this live webinar, pre-scene analysis, it's the first half of the pre-scene. Tomorrow it says this, the industry analysis, okay? So that's a look at the real world industry. That's an hour long. Today's session, by the way, is about 2 hours total. On Monday, April 4th, there is the second half of the pre-scene. Then you've got an office hours session with Ashim if you're a member of the elite course, okay? So this is a chance just to drop in and chat with Ashim in an informal environment, so no pressure to raise any doubts, etc. that you have. It'll be a small group setting for this. And another elite course only workshop, 2 hours long. On April 8th, you're given a detailed overview of the exam, the marking process. So really useful to go through that. Into week 2 then, and we recommend that students start taking mock exams early. There are 5 mock exams to go through, and you're going to be doing one a week, I think, from week 2 onwards. So you're not going to feel quite ready, I think, at this stage to take a mock, but the sooner you get started, the better, so that you're making your mistakes early on and not on the day of the exam. And you're getting feedback. If you take the elite course option, for example, where marking is included, you're getting feedback on your mock exams, okay? Then on April 15th, another elite course only workshop. This is a full review with Ashim of mock 1. So every time you do one of these mocks, there's a full review a few days later with Ashim, okay? Week 3, very useful sessions these. E2 applied, F2 applied, P2 applied. 2 hours each. We take the main 3 or 4 theories from these subjects as they apply to this pre-scene. So what we do is we give you a review of the theory. We show you where in the pre-scene it's popping up and relevant. We talk you through a likely exam scenario and how you would actually respond to that if it comes up on the day of the exam. You've got the second mock exam to take here. And at the end of the week, you've got another mock exam review session with Ashim as part of the elite course, this workshop. Week 4 then, mock exam 3, and at the end of the week, another workshop if you're an elite course student with Ashim, 2 hours long. Into week 5, mock exam 4. So by now you should be getting really good at the mocks. After that, another mock 4 review session with Ashim as part of the elite course. Then you've got a key issue session, live webinar, summing up the top 10 or so issues towards the end of the course. And then into the final week of the course, you've got one more office hour session if you're an elite course student with Ashim, resolving any niggling doubts that you have before the exam. And you've got that last mock exam attempt. You should be really good at this stage with mock exams and feeling ready for the exam. And then you've got one more live workshop with Ashim, 2 hours long, exam question practice, final recommendations. Okay, so it's a really, really complete course. There's a lot in it and very structured. You have a timetable to work to. You've got a mix of live elements, you've got on-demand elements. You can attend the workshops. You don't have to if you don't want to because they're all recorded, whatever suits you. But we recommend you attend live and ask your questions. Ashim can talk a little bit maybe about himself, but very, very experienced tutor, and we're delighted to have him as the MCS tutor. So, you know, there's a little bit of a blurb there, Ashim. Is it all correct?
Yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. I mean, I've not seen many programs as comprehensive and interactive as you've put together, Thomas. So my compliments to you and the team. And really, it's a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of this. And certainly, speaking on my part, I will do my best to add as much value as the rest of the team is. So, yeah, so really excited to be doing this.
Thank you very much, Ashim.
You're very welcome. Do you know what? Before I continue, my Zoom has kind of become tiny. It's in the middle of the screen, and I can't put it back to full screen view.
Let's see, full screen view.
I've got Zoom ratio.
Is there if you hover over the video screen, there is a kind of a, I think it's a green little arrow in the bottom right that will allow you to maximize the screen, I think.
I've got it on the top left, meeting information, green arrow.
It might be that when I come out of this, maybe when I stop sharing my screen, I think, Ashim, it might resolve itself.
Okay.
So we'll see. All
right. Okay, so just a couple of minutes on myself. So I'm an accountant. I'm an FCCA, but I hope you won't hold that against me. And I've been teaching both CIMA and ACCA for donkey's years, actually, over 20, 25 years across the world, really. And so you also see the half screen. Okay. And as well as the teaching, I've also run two companies, international companies, in the training sphere. So what I bring to the table really is a combination of the teaching experience and the technical knowledge and the hands-on practical experience, which for the case study subjects is really, really important, because as you know, as the case studies is a very practical examination, as is is the strategic case study, which you'll face at the next stage. So that combination kind of helps us just to set our thinking even now on the approach that we need to take, and move start to move away from the theory much more into the application of the scenario that we're given, and also to prepare for, things coming in left of field and being able to use the tools and knowledge that we have to create a solution to those challenges. So really exciting time ahead, and we'll be seeing a lot of one another, and I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Hashim. Today's session is free. We will send out a recording as well after. We hope you like it enough to continue the course with VIVA. So from tomorrow onwards, it's going to be only for VIVA customers, okay? So if you want to participate in the remainder of the course, there are three options which I'm going to talk about, okay? First of all, there is the standard course option. So it includes all of these elements here, okay? So you get live webinars with Hashim. So that includes the pre-scene analysis, the industry analysis, the E2, F2, and P2 applied sessions, and the key issue session. You also get 5 mock exams with model solutions, but not with marking, okay? Marking is not included in the standard course. You get lots of documentation, the annotated pre-scene, the annotated financial analysis. There are PDFs that are downloadable for the E2, F2, P2 applied sessions and the key issue session. And you get access to part of our community, okay, but not all of it, which I'll talk about in a minute. Crucially, you do not get access to the part of the community where you have interaction on a forum with Hashim, okay? Now, the standard course is a great option if you're looking for something a little bit more hands-off, and it's a good option, okay? But the most complete MCS course we have is the MCS Elite course, okay? Which includes all of the elements I just mentioned, but crucially also includes these additional few elements at the end. Now, it doesn't look like maybe much, but I can assure you that these additional elements are often what makes the difference. So you get much more tutor time. There are 12 additional hours of workshops, and the workshops are very interactive. They're highly focused on the exam, so the practicalities of taking the exam. There's a lot of back and forth and questions and answers with Hashim on those sessions. Very crucially as well, you get marking for all 5 of your mock exams as part of the Elite course. So you get feedback from a tutor with your strengths, your weaknesses, where you scored well, where you did not, and that's really, really useful. You get access to Hashim through office hours. You get access to Hashim on a private forum where you can ask lots of questions, and Hashim will be generating additional ideas outside of the formal webinars or workshops, etc. So there's quite a difference in the price. You'll notice the standard course is £169. The Elite course is £599. Now we recognize that it's a significant sum of money. And what I would say is that we have benchmarked this very carefully against other tuition providers. And as always, the idea with VIVA is to be competitive on price. So what we typically find for this kind of course, the Elite course, is that other tuition providers are typically charging around £1,000 or even in excess of £1,000. And we think that this is as good an MCS course as there is, okay? And what we have seen as well is that students who go through this course, take it seriously, take all the mock exams especially, they improve their scores very significantly. So what we saw with the February cohort for the MCS Elite course was that, I was looking at it the other day, their scores improved about 37% between the start of the course and the end of the course. So from mock 1 to mock 5, there was a 37% improvement, which is very significant, okay? So that's the Elite course option. Now, usually it's a one-time payment of £599. What we're going to do for the group today is we're going to offer you the chance to pay this over 6 months, okay? So the way that you can book your place in this course is you pay a £99 deposit now, and I'll send you the link in a moment if you want to do that. And then you don't pay anything until 1 month's time. So in 1 month, you start paying £100 installments for 5 months. So this is a way to spread out this course price. So £99 now, and the remaining £500 is paid over 5 months, okay? So to book your place in this course, you pay £99, and I'll send you the link if you want to do that now. If you have any doubts about any of this, by the way, you can direct your questions to me. You can send us an email at info@vivatuition.com. Okay. So what I would say is that Ashim will talk you through, the ins and outs of the pre-scene, etc. He's not necessarily the person, though, that you would go to if you have questions about, course pricing and what's included in the course, etc. That would be for me and the team at Viva. So send us an email at info@vivatuition.com if you've doubts about the price of the course or what's included in the course, etc. I'll send you all of these links after in any case. Okay, so there's one more option I want to talk about if you want to participate in the rest of the course. Some of you will already be All Access members. Our most popular product is All Access membership, which gives you access for 365 days to all of our standard courses. So if you went for that option, it would actually include the MCS standard course as well, okay? So what's included in the All Access membership is the MCS standard course, but all of our other standard courses as well. From the operational level, you also have E2, F2, and P2, and then you have access to the E3, P3, and F3 standard courses, plus the SCS standard course. So if you pass your exam for the MCS this time, you progress to the next level and you've unlocked all of that access as well. So that gives you 365 days of access to all of those standard courses. It's a real, it's a great value option, because if you actually work it out, it's £399 typically. That works out at £34 per course, which is really, really good value. There's about 1,000 hours of study content included in that, between video lectures and thousands of questions and mock exams and downloadable course notes, etc. So it's a lot, okay? So that's normally £399. For the next 48 hours, we're going to offer that for £299. And again, I'll send you a discount link to purchase that if you so wish. So I would say the best options are CIMA All Access if you're looking for something a little bit more hands-off and you're happy with that. If you're looking for a very complete MCS course and you're only focusing on the MCS now, the Elite course is the best option, okay? So we'll also send you the £99 deposit link in a minute, and then you'll be prompted in a month's time to start your payments. So I hope that's clear. Let me see. There's another important thing to mention. So with both of these course options, if you purchase them, there is essentially a pass guarantee baked in, because you get access not just for the May round, but you also get access through to the end of the August round. So if you sit the exam in May and you fail and you want to repeat in August, then you're covered also for the August round. You get full access to all of the content for that round too. Okay. And, if you want to try this for free, click on the free trial link. You can go in and have a look at what we have behind the scenes. So once you're logged in, you can see all of the products. If you're All Access, you get access to all of these courses. With the MCS, then you'll see that we have the pre-course work. It's all in there, all of the videos, the review sessions, the questions, etc. there. And we're in the process then of uploading all of this content for the current window. So pre-scene analysis is today. You already have the annotated documents in there for the ratios, etc. Industry analysis tomorrow. And then these applied sessions, crucially the mock exams. There are 3 of those already up. The 4th and 5th are on the way. And you have all of the links here to register for the webinar sessions. There's one more element I want to share with you, which is the community, okay? So I hope you can all see this, by the way. So Ashim, can you see this community that I've just shared? Great.
I can.
Excellent. So we wanted to go beyond just the course offering, because we know that, the courses are great, the live webinars are great, but we wanted a place where students can come and talk with other students and talk with their tutors, okay? And this is the community, okay? So you'll get a link to join the community once you make your purchase. And what you'll unlock, it depends on what you purchase. So if you go for the standard course or the All Access membership, you get access to the MCS discussion area and the MCS webinar section, okay? So the MCS discussion area is where you're going to be talking with fellow students about the case. So it works very much like a Facebook group where you're posting and you're commenting and liking, etc. But there are none of the privacy concerns that come with Facebook. I know a lot of people are concerned about that. You can see all of the MCS webinars when they're coming up, and you can register for those there as well. You've got the location, the link there to register for each webinar is there. And if you're an elite course member, you unlock access to the next 2 spaces. So there's the MCS Tutor Thoughts space, which is elite course only, and that's where Ashim will be active. That's where you can interact with Ashim. You get access as well to these upcoming workshops and office hours with Ashim. So this is where you can register for these exam-focused workshop interactive sessions. So you've got detail on all of those there. You can add them to your calendar and register for the different Zoom webinars that are coming up with Ashim. So, very, very nice way to go through the course and to supplement what you're learning on the webinars, etc., to chat with fellow students and chat with Ashim yourself. So, I would say with the community, it's all about you get back what you put in. So come with the attitude that you're going to contribute, you're going to post, you're going to help your fellow students because you're all in this together. You're going to interact with your tutor. So take advantage of that. So I hope all of that's clear. And I'm going to pop a few links into the chat box in a minute. Let me see if I've forgotten anything. I don't think so. So as I said, we've got special offers running for the elite course and all access. So the elite course, normally you have to pay £599 in one go. We're spreading that out. £99 deposit now, then worry about the installments in 1 month's time, and it's £100 installments for 5 months after that. And with the all access, £399 normally, it'll be £299 for the next 48 hours. I'll send you the link in a minute. And the all access membership includes this standard course, which normally costs £169. So for an additional £130, basically, you unlock everything else, all of the other standard courses, as well as the MCS standard course, okay, for 365 days. I'll leave it there. Thank you for listening to me. And the best of luck, Ashim.
Thank you very much. I'm just, I think this all access pass combined with the special deal you've got on the elite course is brilliant, in terms of because the thing with the all access is, of course, you can always go back to the earlier courses and refresh your memory, so yeah, it's a fabulous combination. I'd take both. If,
I'm biased, Ashim, but definitely. The other thing to mention is, because we will have actually all access members on today's webinar. If you are an all access member and you're interested in kind of upgrading your access from the standard course to the elite course, because if you are an all access member, you will already have the standard course as part of your pack. If you're thinking, oh, I'd like to unlock the elite course, send us an email at info@vivatuition.com, because we can do that for you. Okay. So if you are an all access member, just send us an email at info@vivatuition.com and we'll get back to you with an option to upgrade for this particular MCS. Okay, I'll leave it there. I'll keep an eye on how things are going for a few minutes, Ashim, just to see that you're set up okay. So I'll stop sharing.
Okay, there are a couple of questions in the chat box, I think, which Thomas addressed to you. So I'll leave those to you.
Very good.
All right, so let's get this thing up. I'm going to, some housekeeping before we start. The first thing is the Q&A, all right? This is, once we get started on the case study, I will not be taking questions, and there's a reason for that, because this is going to be available on demand. If we break it up with questions, then if you or someone else is listening at a later stage, there's a loss in flow. So how do we deal with questions? What I would suggest, please, is to write them down. All right, so you don't forget them. Write them down. And then we'll have about 10 minutes at the end, and we'll go through as many as we can. And of course, those of you who join the elite group will have the opportunity to ask those questions directly to me and to one another in the groups. Okay, so I'm not going to be taking questions until the very end of today, and that will apply for tomorrow and Monday as well. Okay, so please note well. The second thing is, what's our objective today? Our objective is to go through about a half of this case study, okay, and we're going to talk about it in a number of from a number of different perspectives. And my aim is, to get you thinking about E2, F2, and P2 in a more integrated way, and applying it to the real world scenario that you've been given in this case study. All right, because that's what you need to demonstrate in the examination. Okay, and we're also going to raise some questions about, well, this is an area which could lend itself to a question in the exam, and maybe we'll explore some ideas around those as well. Okay, so the aim is to integrate, to raise some questions, some thinking about what we could be asked, and to cover the details of the case study. As I say, we're not going to have time to do the whole thing in one go. So we split up into two parts. So we have the first part today, and we have the second part on Monday, and then tomorrow we have the industry analysis, which will give us some background on the industry in the case study. Okay, so that's our aim. All right. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be hiding the floating meeting controls, okay, so that we don't see anything that comes up in the chat box. And if we're all ready, here we go. All right. So management case study exam, May, August 2022, and here's a pre-seen material. A brief note they've got here on COVID. And it's telling you that there is an assumption that COVID-19 has not had an impact. All right. However, if you do mention something related to COVID and the effect that it has had, then you will receive recognition. You will get marks for that based on the merits of what you say. All right, but it's just, just keeps life simpler if you leave COVID out of the picture altogether. All right, and pretend it never happened. Okay. Oh, by the way, even if you haven't, because I know that some of you will have gone through this case study in some detail, and some of you will not have, and this will be the first time you're seeing this, and that's okay. All right, that's okay, because we're going to start with the assumption that no one has seen it. All right, and we're going to go through it in detail together, so that by the time we get through the whole thing, everyone's going to be at the same level, and then we can start applying it to various questions. Okay, so don't worry if you haven't been through the case study yet. Okay, so what does this thing look like? Well, it starts with a table of contents, and you see there's quite a wide range of contents here. There's an introduction, there's a little bit about the industry, and we see it's about the tea industry. It tells you something about history and products, and we assume piping is the name of the organization in the case study. And then we're told something about the operations of the business of piping, the management structure, the business model, a bit about competition, the financial reports, the annual reports, and then some news reports, right? So it's a very comprehensive picture of the organization. Now, what does that mean? It means also that you don't need to be an expert in piping's industry to be able to answer questions on it. All right, you will be given quite a lot of information here and also in our meeting regarding the industry analysis. All right, so don't worry if you're not an expert on this. Now, we start with an introduction, and what you will see here in the yellow shaded boxes are points that have been incorporated, things that come to mind as we've read through the facts given in the case study. All right, and what I'll be doing is I will be adding some additional points as we go through this analysis. And as I do, of course, you'll have these points recorded and they'll be on demand. But I would suggest that you write the points down as well, okay, for your own use. And if you can print out a copy of the case study, it's probably easier to write these points on the case study. Or if you want to work electronically, of course, you can use a PDF editor or something to do the same thing. It's entirely up to you, whatever works for you. Just a bit of a heads up, I will be making additional points as we go through this. And so I would suggest that you record those additional points. Okay, so let's get started with the introduction. Now, immediately we see the yellow boxes without even reading it. If we just kind of quickly scan the yellow boxes, we see F2 and P2 being referenced in our notes. All right, and immediately we see the interaction of the earlier papers subject here, even in the introduction. All right, so let's go through the introduction and see what they're telling us. Piping Beverages, and it's going to be called Piping here on in, is a quoted company. Now, these are important words, and that's why they've been highlighted, quoted company. Why are they important? Well, there are a number of reasons. One, of course, is that it allows the company to raise finance on the stock exchange through the issue of debt or equity, all right, for example, for some investments, capital investments, and so on. Okay, so that's one of the reasons this is important information. The second is that we are vulnerable to market sentiment about what we do. All right. So, for example, and I'm not saying this is relevant to the case study, but I want you to start thinking like this. For example, if there is some bad press about our company, about, I don't know, perhaps our corporate social responsibility and so on, then there is a possibility that because we're quoted, the price of our shares will be affected and will decline. Okay, so we are sensitive to the information that's put out about us and the market's perception of our organization. All right, so those are the kinds of things that are important when you're a quoted company. And we see here in the yellow box, it refers to F2, sources of finance, right, raising debt or equity. So quoted company manufactures packaged tea for sale. And here we have some examples, some comparatives, which you might want to look at in your own time, but we will certainly be touching on them when we do our industry analysis. Twinings and PG Tips, owned by two global conglomerates. Okay, so immediately we get an idea of the context of this organization, and they sell to retailers. Now, if they sell to retailers, that tells us who the customer group is. It tells us something about the distribution chains and so on that we're likely to have in place, the volumes that we sell, and so on. Okay. Piping buys the tea that it uses in bulk on the open market. So that sounds like we are paying for this, for our raw material, our resource, on the open market, which allows for transparency and ensures that we pay a market price for what we buy, how much we buy, and its quality. Piping is based in Northlandia, a developed country that has a strong economy and whose citizens have a high standard of living. Now, what is the importance of highlighting those words, strong economy and high standard of living? Well, a number of things potentially. It's a strong economy, high standard of living, levels of disposable income are likely to be quite high. The opportunity for customers to buy our product, that is tea, is greater. It's also perhaps an opportunity for us to present a premium product, a premium tea product, because the market is there, i.e., people that can afford to buy it. All right. Moving on, Northlandia's currency is the Northlandian dollar. Northlandian company law requires companies to prepare financial statements in accordance with IFRS. Okay, so 2 points here. As soon as you see something about currency, one immediately starts to think about things like transaction risk or foreign exchange risk, and so on. So either paying for supplies, receiving money from overseas customers, perhaps recognition of revenues from overseas, and so on, okay? And how vulnerable we are to exchange rate fluctuations. So those are the things that need to come into your minds when you see the currency stated. Why is the fact that they prepare accounts according to IFRS important? Well, of course, it means it allows standardization of the reporting of financial information and other company information, and also the comparability that IFRS allows against other organizations. Okay, so these are the kinds of things that come to mind with IFRS. Now, you're a financial manager at Piping's head office. Your primary responsibilities are associated with management accounting. You report to Chana de Silva, the senior finance manager, who reports directly to the director. Okay, now at the MCS level, you will typically be a financial manager, so mid-level manager in the financial function. And this list here goes through the kinds of responsibilities, the attitude, the approach that you are expected to be taking in real life, and of course reflected in your answers here. Okay, so this is quite a good kind of background, a foundation, if you like, before we go into the nitty-gritty of the company. Okay, I'll leave you to read this financial manager role here. I'll leave you to read this list and just bear that in mind as we go forward, okay, and bring this into the approach that you take when answering questions. Right, next section talks about the industry itself. It starts off by giving us some technical information about how tea is made, and I suspect most of us know how we do that. All right, so moving on from there, it talks about the Latin name for a family of shrubs, and you can look at that if you're particularly excited. I doubt that it'll come up in the examination. Now, this last sentence is potentially important. All references to tea in this document will be to products and drinks made from Camellia sinensis leaves. Now, why is this particularly important? Well, because we often hear about different kinds of tea made from other herbs or roots or what have you, and it's just clarifying that we're talking only about what we traditionally typically refer to as tea, all right, from these leaves. So how do the leaves actually come into existence, or how do we grow them? Well, it tells us where, first of all, they're grown. Okay, they're grown commercially in South Asia and East Africa. Okay, and in fact, we have a note here. Okay, some background information. The top tea exporters are based in China, Kenya, and Sri Lanka. All right, so it has to do with the altitude, as we're told, between 1,000 and 2,000 meters above sea level, and the weather. Okay, so here, picture of tea plantations. Moving on, the shrubs on tea plantations have useful lives that vary between 40 and 100 years, depending on the type of shrub that is grown. Leaves are harvested by plantation workers who pluck leaves from bushes every 7 to 14 days. Okay, so a couple of things to highlight here, 40 to 100 years. So this sounds as though it is a long-term source of supply. Okay, it's not something that's going to run out in a year or two. That's the first thing. Also, we have workers who pluck leaves every 1 to 2 weeks. So it's a fast-growing plant. So it sounds as though it's a very the supply chain is very dynamic. Okay, it's not seasonal. Also, potentially, we don't know how easy it would be to automate the plucking of leaves. That may or may not be important, but again, just raising the point. Leaves are then processed using two main methods to produce two different types of tea. Black tea, and this is, I think probably the more popular of the two, certainly in some parts of the world. So the green leaves are separated on racks to dry, so they're dried up. They're treated mechanically, so presumably that means shaken, right, to break up the cells, and then the leaves are left to absorb some oxygen, and then they're dried, which makes them black. All right, so black tea is sometimes referred to as made or dry tea. Okay, so this is the one that's most commonly referred to when we talk about tea. Okay, well that's good to know. Again, I don't expect that the examiner is going to ask us details like this. Oh, by the way, just something I also worth considering: the influence the business has on natural and social capital. What does that mean? It means that these plantation workers, all right, depend on the ability for this, to sell this tea, because that is how they earn their living, all right? And therefore, there is a social capital and perhaps a social responsibility that we have, okay? All right, to these workers. We then move on to the other type of tea, the green tea. It's made by steaming and heating the leaves after they've been plucked. Leaves are not processed further, and so they remain green, okay? Large tea manufacturers sell both of these. And certainly, we will each have had different experiences of black and green tea, but certainly, where I have been, my experience has been that it's predominantly black tea, but green teas are certainly making some inroads into the market in the UK and where I am right now, which is in Poland. All right, so further processing of the plantation, slightly different processes depending on what's going to happen. How are they going to be sold? So they're going to be sold either as loose tea or tea bags. All right, and then once they are bagged, they are then sold to the manufacturers. Okay, black tea is sold in bulk as a commodity, okay, with many tea growing companies operating tea auctions that enable manufacturers to bid against one another in order to acquire a supply of tea leaves. Now, important point, auctions, tea auctions, which suggests transparency, okay, and a fair market price is being paid, okay? So that's actually a good thing in terms of our reputation when we buy it, all right, in terms of our corporate social responsibility, all right, and we are protecting ourselves from accusations of exploitation and so on, all right. Okay, so moving on, black tea leaves from different countries have different flavors and they can be affected by the plantation that they're grown in. Manufacturers must keep the particular flavor of their blends and will often bid for leaves from specific plantations to help in the blending process. Now, this is also quite interesting. So most of the tea that we have is blended. In other words, it's a combination of different flavors. And the aim of this is that if somebody buys a box of tea or a tea bag from us, today, the taste will be the same as the bag of tea that they buy from us in a week's time. Okay, so that's why these leaves are blended to maintain the consistency of flavor. Now, this is important in terms of the quality, all right, that is expected of the tea manufacturer. So blending is actually critical to the quality maintenance activity. Now, what happens if one plantation, for whatever reason, might be weather or something else, has a shortage of their blend, their particular blend of tea or their particular type of black tea, then clearly the price of that is going to go up in auction. Supply will be limited. And so for the buyers, such as piping, the total price of that blend will also go up. It is something that is out of the buyer's control, right? And so what that means is it makes it really difficult to identify the cost of production of that one tea bag, all right, which needs to be incurred if we're going to maintain consistency of taste. Okay, so there's a moving part there which we have no influence over. All right, moving on, we're given a little graph here, and it's the commodity price of tea over a few years from March. Sorry, I beg your pardon, May 2017 to March 2022, and we see that there's a general downward trend in tea prices. In fact, at the moment, it's the lowest that it's been since these records started, right? So since May 17. And so what that means is, of course, that for piping, it's actually pretty good news. Okay, so we don't have much control over the price of the raw material, but generally the price is going down, and so actually we're happy about it. On the other hand, of course, it also means that the income for the producers, the growers of the tea, is also declining. And so, what impact does that have on those economies? Now, in terms of why tea prices might decline, okay, well, we've already mentioned weather, okay, but other things, for example, might include, if there is some kind of plant disease that attacks these plants, or if there is a shortage of workers in that plantation or in that country, where suddenly we don't get all the tea harvested and so on. So there are, again, many influences on the reason that tea prices might change. If they go the other way, so for example, if we have a surplus of workers, then the price of tea would go down because the cost of picking the tea for that one tea bag would go down as well. Okay. All right, so moving on to tea manufacture. Tea manufacturers import the leaves purchased at auction. Well, we already knew that. They're then blended and packaged ready for sale to retailers. Every batch of black tea has a slightly different flavor because of factors such as weather conditions during growth. Tea manufacturers deal with that by employing skilled blenders to taste samples from each batch of tea leaves under laboratory conditions. All right. Now, important. We already know about the slightly different flavors and what might make that happen. The thing I want to highlight here is the skilled blenders who can taste the various samples and decide how to blend them. Now, we've already said that the taste of the tea is important. It needs to be consistent, right? Which means that the blender's role is critical to producing a consistent taste, right? Which means, therefore, that the blender is a key source, potentially, of competitive advantage. If we can say, compared to our competitors, and we don't know anything about our competitors yet, but if we can say, compared to our competitors, that every time you buy one tea bag from us, it's going to taste exactly the same as the tea bag you bought last time. So we developed this reputation for reliability, for consistency, for quality, and so on. Okay. All right. The second thing, employee engagement. Blenders are an important part of any tea manufacturing companies. Keeping these employees motivated and engaged is a priority. So not only are they a source of competitive advantage, we want to hang on to them. We want to hang on to the good guys, right? Or girls or whatever, to make sure that they don't go and work for our competitors. And so now we get to thinking about, well, how do we make sure that they do stay with us, right? Then the other question that's raised here is, blenders are a part of the quality management process. Could this be done by machines in the future? Well, you know, we shall see if we're given any more information on this, but right now, reading this, I would have thought probably not. Very little that can compare directly with the human nose and taste apparatus. All right, precise flavor characteristics. So this is what they do of each batch, and determine a blend from different batches that will create the consistent flavor associated with their particular brand or brands of tea. Okay, I think the rest of that paragraph we have already spoken about. So let's move on. Once the tea is blended, it is packaged and prepared as products for sale to consumers, primarily through retailers. Okay, so this tells us about our supply chain. Tea is sold to consumers in different forms. And we're told a little bit about what those forms are. And again, you know, I'm sure that we're all familiar with these, but let's just run through them, see if there's any information we need to pick up. So starting with loose tea, they're sold in packets. All right, consumers take the leaves, put the leaves into a teapot or some other kind of pot, add water, allow it to stand so that the flavor comes out into the water, and then it is poured and drunk. Okay, now the thing about loose tea is it uses high quality tea leaves. And so we said for this company, Piping, and for its country, which has a strong economy with high levels of disposable income, this is probably something that has a substantial part of their sales revenue. All right, the loose tea, likely to appeal to tea connoisseurs. So even though they might not sell as much as other types of tea, all right, because it's likely to be a premium product, revenues are going to be substantial. Okay. All right, moving on to tea bags. So then they tell us about how these are made. Tea is put into bags. The bags are made up of different things: paper and plastic or gauze. Or sometimes a mixture of two or more. Now, here we might be thinking about the environmental impact of using, for example, plastic, okay, for a bag, and how whether it would decompose when we throw it away. Consumers can use a teapot, or they can simply put a tea bag into a cup or a mug and add water, and the tea then brews. Tea bags require the leaves to be ground more finely. Yes, so the tea leaves are much smaller than with loose tea, right? And that makes sense because there's more surface area over which the water can run, and it typically contains 1.5 grams of tea leaves per cup. Okay, just going back to the previous, you know, the loose tea requires roughly 3 grams. So, you know, twice as many leaves, or twice as much weight of leaves. All right. Then we're given a bit of background here. Some premium brands use cornstarch to make biodegradable tea bags, which is good news, better than plastic, I would have thought. Tea in tea bags is often considered low quality or lower quality than loose tea. True enough. More common than loose tea in countries like the UK because of convenience. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? With tea bags, it's convenient. And so, You don't need to strain the tea before you pour and drink it. Tea bags are pre-proportioned, therefore we have exactly the right amount of tea that we need to make the cup of tea that we're looking for. So that's why tea bags are important, and I guess there's nothing particularly surprising there. Now we have this exciting new thing called tea pods. So tea pods are actually similar to the containers that you use to make coffee in the machine. Yes, so tea pods are sealed plastic containers designed to fit in the same machines that used to make coffee from coffee pods. Each brand of such machines requires pods that are made to accommodate its unique shape. So, if you go into a cafe, very often you'll see a coffee machine and it'll have a particular brand name on it. And you know that only coffee pods from that brand, from that company, will actually work in that machine. And so very often what a lot of companies do, these coffee percolating machines, what they do, the manufacturers, they give the cafe the machine free, and then they sell the pods, and they tend to make their money that way. All right, so there is the opportunity to do exactly the same, have exactly the same business model with tea as is currently being practiced with coffee. All right. So the consumer inserts a pod into the machine, fills the machine's tank with water, machine heats the water, punctures the pod, forces hot water through it, and out at the other end comes a cup of coffee or tea. Okay. So tea and coffee pods are made either from metal or plastic or both, and therefore may be difficult to recycle. So again, we're thinking about our environmental impact and so on. Might be an expensive way of consuming tea. Well, when you read expensive, it means a number of things. Expensive means probably premium, okay, premium pricing, which is not perhaps so much of a barrier in our home country. That's the first thing. Secondly, the word expensive suggests that it's niche. All right, so it's not something that's going to be bought by everybody in exactly the same way as coffee machines aren't bought by everybody. All right, so people that buy these machines are unlikely to be the ones that are buying tea bags as well, for example. Okay, so there are a number of dimensions of the fact that it's expensive. Okay, moving on. Ready to drink. Tea is sold in bottles intended to be consumed as chilled drinks. Manufacturer brews batches of tea, which are then cooled and bottled for sale to retailers. So yes, I'm sure many of us will have seen, the iced tea plastic bottles. All right. And the thing about those, perhaps to bear in mind, is that very often they're sweetened. All right. So there's quite a lot of sweetener or sugar in them. And yes, they're usually sold in plastic bottles, again, which has the environmental impact associated with it. For example, Lipton iced tea, which is a joint venture between PepsiCo and Lipton, which is part of Unilever. All right. Now, before we move on to tea consumption, what we're going to do is we're going to have a 5-minute break. All right, for those of you who want to pop off and go and have a cup of coffee or something. All right, and we will continue. It is now 3 minutes past the hour. So I'll see you back here at 8 minutes past the hour. All right, so let's continue. Hope you freshened up. Just get rid of these meeting controls. There we go. All right, so tea consumption. Now, some interesting facts here. It's second only to water, tea, as the most widely consumed drink in the world, although its popularity varies significantly, yes, of course, between countries. We know that from our own experience, right? Some countries prefer coffee, others tea. Northlandians consume an average of 1.9 kilos of tea per person each year, putting them near the top of the global rankings. Northlandia is one of 8 countries where the annual average consumption exceeds 1 kilo per person. Now, this is interesting. What it's telling us is that there are 7 other countries, all right, which are a potential market, a strong market for a company like Piping. Now, what that means is that somewhere along the line, we're probably going to have to think about an export opportunity, and or the opportunity to acquire an overseas entity in one of these countries, and or to start up a new entity in one of these countries, all right, as part of an expansion strategy. So those are possibilities that are derived from this piece of data. The other related issue, of course, is something that we've already spoken about, and that is the exchange rate risk that we face if we were to do any or all of those things. Okay. So, right. So that's the thing to bear in mind there. Moving on. Tea contains caffeine, which makes it refreshing, and tea is hydrating and so helps the body to store fluid, which is beneficial in hot climates or when taking a break from work. Tea is also believed to increase the body's defenses against a number of serious illnesses. Now, interesting. It has benefits, okay? It can make you feel refreshed, and it can help you. It can help to rehydrate you. But we have to be extremely careful when we present our product as Piping. Have to be extremely careful not to say that it provides a health benefit or a defense against serious illnesses. Why? Well, because essentially we're saying then that tea is a medicinal product, all right, and therefore, in order to be able to say that and to claim any advantages of it, it needs to go through a process of checking its properties and any risks associated with it and so on. So we need to be very careful. We might know it's healthy, all right, or it has health benefits, but we cannot speak about it without opening ourselves to certain challenges, all right? Okay, let's have a look at the next graph to retail sales of tea. Upward trend, but what is fueling it? Is it green or black? Are they loose or tea bags? So again, going from 2012 to 2021, for which we have numbers presumably. Okay, so the actuals, we see a general trend. We see a small drop in 2020, but then forecasting ahead, we see the world market for tea is actually going up, and this is in value terms, not volume terms. Okay, so in billions of Northlandian dollars. What we're not told is, what type of tea we're talking about. Is it green or black or both? All right, and so for us as decision makers, it's difficult to know, how to mix the two. How much green do we want to sell? How much black do we want to sell? What do we expect to happen in those markets, and so on? And the same thing with whether it's loose tea or tea bags that we're selling. Okay, so some information, but limited in its usefulness. All right. And this is simply saying that cultural differences affect the manner in which tea is prepared and consumed. For example, black tea is very popular in some countries, green tea is preferred in others. Relative popularity of tea bags versus loose teas also varies significantly. Yes, okay, so what that's saying is that we need to understand, if we're talking about exporting to another country, we need to understand what the cultural preferences are in that country to make sure that we give them the product that they like, that they want. Okay, piping's history now, a bit of background, founded in 1852. Now, we like that, the fact that it was, we get this feeling that piping's a traditional company. It has values and we can trust it. It's survived for so long, so it must be doing something right. It has a strong brand. Okay, so for all of these reasons, this is something that piping can actually benefit from: its brand and its reputation and its history. How might it benefit from those? Well, for example, people would rather perhaps pay a slight premium to buy from piping because they trust the brand, right? Than to buy a similar tea from another supplier because it's new, for example, something like that. So founded in 1852 in Northandia's central city. The climate there is unsuitable for growth of tea, and so we've always relied on imported leaves. Tea drinking has been part of Northandia's culture for many years, remains popular. Okay, the fact that it remains popular tells us about the market saturation, the level of market demand for tea. Okay, and it suggests that it may be increased either in terms of the amount that people buy or the numbers of people that start to drink tea. All right, company was listed on the stock exchange in 1974. Now, I've already spoken about this, all right, and so I'm not going to spend any more time explaining the implication of its listing. Piping has grown steadily, focusing exclusively on black tea, and has been Northandia's leading tea manufacturer for many years. Piping now produces several varieties of tea, including two of the most popular teas in the country: piping tea and piping strong flavor, one in tea bags only and one in tea bags and as loose tea. So this tells us something about the product portfolio. All right. It also tells us potentially that there is an opportunity to sell green tea. Okay, potentially. All right, maybe in our market, Northandia, or in other markets. All right, but these are the kinds of questions that start to come to mind. All right, is the first company to manufacture tea bags in Northandia, introducing them to the market in 1958. Since then, it has created a number of innovative designs of tea bags. Each design change is claimed to improve the flavor of the tea made from those bags. All right, so what is this telling us? It's telling us that it has first mover advantage. It's the first organization to produce tea bags, all right, in the country. And so anyone first to the market with something as popular as tea bags have turned out to be is going to have that advantage. Right. Northandians prefer tea bags to loose tea. Piping manufactures 360 bags every week and also sells loose tea in packets to cater for the demand from the minority of consumers who prefer to make tea from loose leaves. Okay, so let's have a look at these yellow shaded notes that I've made here. Innovations may lead to capitalized development spend, so linking us to IAS 38, and we shall be talking more about that in detail. But again, it's a link to what's going on, or the integrated nature, if you like, of the subject. All right. In the UK, 100 million cups of tea are drunk each day. Good Lord, 100 million. Right. I know it's a bit of a cliche, you know, in the UK, you know, everything stops for tea and all of that, but it's true, you know, we drink a lot of tea. Right. P2, pricing. Piping engages in premium pricing. This is important to remember when pricing new products. Okay, so we've already picked that up. Piping's teas are regarded as premium products, slightly more expensive than competing brands. Yeah, we said, okay, that's fine, because of the market in which it operates and also because of the quality of its brand. They buy good quality leaves, spends heavily on advertising to promote or maintain, I would think, brand awareness. Piping's packaging is both visually appealing and is designed to keep the contents fresh. Okay, so brand awareness is important to them. The amount, the proportion of its spends, and we'll find out when we look at the numbers. All right, heavily on the cost of sales, the cost of buying the raw materials, and also its marketing, right, to keep the demand high. Piping is popular because it matches the preferences of Northlandian consumers who generally like a strong flavor that can be enhanced by adding both milk and sugar. Most of the company's output is sold through retailers in Northlandia, although it exports tea to countries that share a preference for strong tea. So it's already involved in the export market. Exports are also driven by demand from Northlandian expatriates who have settled abroad and wish to continue drinking their favorite tea. Absolutely, a little taste of home. All right, so what are these notes in the yellow boxes? Potential exam scenario, exporting to new country. Absolutely, we've already spoken about that. F2, IAS 21, exporting to countries outside Northlandia exposes piping to transaction risk. And we've spoken about that as well. So moving on, operations. Piping has a factory in Central City, which is where it started, remember. It employs 700 staff, and a further 200 are involved in buying, marketing, and administration. They're based at a head office building that is close to the factory. All right, so 700 staff in the factory, which does beg the question. I mean, it's a large number of people, right? And does beg the question, how much opportunity is there for automation of the factory? We see that happening. Well, it's been happening for decades now. But, you know, with robotics that we have now and various other technology, it's speeding up. Okay, so the notes here, we have P2, investment appraisal. Piping could use investment appraisal techniques when evaluating PPE purchases, right? So basically the plant and equipment purchasing. So yes, it could be, you know, you could get a question, well, we're thinking of automating the factory, we're going to buy some robots. All right, is it worth doing this? All right, and so you might be required to do a net present value calculation, for example. Black tea is purchased at auctions. Well, we knew that, held in the tea producing countries. Piping has a sophisticated digital buying system, predicts the company's requirements for tea from different locations and matches those requirements to the timing of scheduled tea auctions. It enables the purchasing department to identify buying opportunities that are relevant to the company. So we know which plantations we want to buy from, we know which auctions we want to buy from, we know when they're going to happen, and so we can manage our purchasing, which means that we can minimize the holding cost of our raw materials, right? So we save on our working capital. All right. Price of black tea varies according to supply and demand, of course, but it's always the single most expensive component of piping's costs, typically exceeding 40% of the total manufacturing cost. All right, so this is potentially important information when analyzing profitability. So let's have a look at the notes around it. Just-in-time buying system could work well with just-in-time as it helps to reduce inventories. Well, we picked that up. Important to remember, black tea is the single most expensive component of piping's costs. Costs could come in handy in the exam. Well, I suspect it will actually come in handy. All right, so that's why we've highlighted it. Digital workforce implementing more sophisticated systems will require piping to create a digital workforce. Yes, and we touched on that already. You know, can we use technology, all right, to replace some of these 700 people in the factory? All right, so moving on, each batch of tea purchased is sampled by the tea blenders. Well, we've spoken about them. Company has 6 of these guys, blenders who have a tasting laboratory beside the factory. Each batch of leaves has its own unique flavor, which means piping's teas would not be consistent over time. Yes, we've had a lot of discussions. So I'm just going to run through this. They use their judgment to decide precise mix. Yes, we know. All right, what about in the yellow boxes? Project management. If a new product is created, the blenders will have to work with marketing and distribution. Exactly, right? So now we're starting to see the likelihood or possibility, you know, so if piping wants to increase its range of products that it sells by introducing new teas or new formats, whatever, then these people, you know, the blenders are going to have to work with the marketing and advertising people, the manufacturing people, and so on, to create this product. All right. And so the ability not only to project manage is important, but also the ability to work across functions is important. Right? And sometimes, very often, you see in organizations, you see each function actually protecting its own little area and its own space, and not wanting to share that kind of information with other functions. Right? So there may or may not be a challenge, but just raising the point. Highly skilled, difficult to replace. Yep, we got that. Then it tells us a little bit about how they are, you know, taken from the plantation to the retailers. So what happens? Black tea leaves are packed in large paper sacks at the plantation. The sacks are packed, shipped to the factory on pallets, stacked inside shipping containers. Unprocessed black tea can be stored for years, although its flavor will deteriorate slightly if stored for more than a few months. All right. Manufacturers will, in any case, be keen to minimize inventory holding costs by processing black tea and selling the finished product as quickly as possible. All right, well, that makes sense. Although we can store it for years, we don't really want to. Why? Because it's taking up space in our warehouses, because we're going to have wastage, we're going to have loss of that raw material, which of course has a cost associated with. So again, ideally, you know, we want to reduce raw material inventory, reduce our working capital cost, all right, by improving our supply chain, right, to make it just in time compatible. When they are required for production, the paper sacks are transported mechanically, emptied into massive metal drums with a number of sacks from each batch of black tea specified by the tea blenders. The drums rotate slowly until the leaves from each batch have been mixed evenly. A sample is tasted by the factory's quality control technicians to confirm the mixture of leaves in the drum is satisfactory before any processing. Okay, fine. So it's all mixed up automatically. Again, in the yellow boxes, yes, we might have something to do with, we're thinking we need a new drum. Okay, we need a new drum. How do we make that decision? So capital investment appraisal, so NPV, something like that, or payback, whatever. Quality management, so prevention costs being incurred here. So the cost of ensuring that the quality is acceptable is the cost of the quality control technicians. Yes, their salaries, right, to prevent quality lapses, and that's why they're called prevention costs. If the blended tea leaves are to be sold as loose tea, then they are loaded onto production lines that weigh out the correct amount for each packet of tea. The tea leaves are then dropped onto sheets of foil, cut, folded, and sealed. So you see a picture here on the left-hand side of what it looks like. All right. After it has been sealed, the packets are placed in cardboard boxes formed on the production line. That creates a retail boxes of tea that are ready to be stacked on retailer shelves, and the boxes are loaded into cardboard boxes for shipping. All right, so presumably the weighing machine must be calibrated often. Of course it must be. All right, and therefore, again, that's probably a quality prevention cost. All right, so we know that each packet weighs the same consistently. Okay, so moving on down. So process for making tea bags is very similar. The loose leaves required for each tea bag are placed on a strip of paper. Second strip of paper goes on top, and the two strips are fused together around the tea leaf. Tea leaves, the fused strip is then cut. Separate the individual tea bags. More expensive brands of tea bags, including piping, so remember this is a premium tea bag, have a tag attached to make it easier for consumers to lift them out of their cups. Individual tea bags can also be packaged in a paper envelope to maintain freshness and to permit branding to be printed on each tea bag. Tea bags are then packed into foil, boxed, and processed in outer boxes, cardboard boxes for transportation. So sometimes the sealing process uses small bits of plastic, which makes tea bags not fully compostable. In other words, the impact on the environment, right? We can't, plastic is not biodegradable. Value analysis, conducting a value analysis or engineering exercise, is important to consider these extra components, right? So where is the value coming from? Okay, so let's have a look. Two separate production lines for loose tea and tea bags, so completely independent. Lines or processes are highly mechanized. Okay, so maybe there isn't that much room to replace some of our staff. 700 production staff are employed to monitor the operation of machinery on the production lines, make adjustments, carry out preventive maintenance, and deal with breakdowns. The machinery undertakes almost all of the manufacturing and handling of inventory. So production line staff are really there to make sure that everything is operating smoothly, all right, on the production lines, and to carry out maintenance and deal with breakdowns. Now, in terms of operating smoothly, there is technology around, of course, which can identify, which monitors processes, monitors equipment, all right, and immediately identifies a potential problem, all right, and then sends out, a signal asking for expertise to be brought in to address it, right? So at the moment, this is being done by humans. It may be something that we can have done by technology. Right, quality management, preventive maintenance is another example of prevention costs. Yes, okay, we mentioned that. And then it talks more about investment appraisal. So you see that you need to be fully familiar with the investment appraisal techniques in your earlier subjects. All right, moving on to marketing and distribution. Piping's products are sold through major retailers on Northumbria. Marketing and distribution department has two main functions. Starting with advertising. Piping invests heavily on advertising, maintain brand awareness. Yeah, we read that earlier as well. Company's brand name is recognizable. Yep, it's been around 170 odd years. It doesn't surprise us. But it remains important to advertise through traditional and online channels in order to prevent loss of market share. Advertising also helps Piping to develop brand loyalty from younger customers who might switch to other drinks such as coffee. So we're constantly aiming to attract a new customer profile. The customers we already have, they're always going to buy our tea, but what about the new buyers who are going to replace these guys as they die and so on? Okay, so we're maintaining our market. Advertising team is part of Piping's marketing and distribution department. Substantial budget for development of new ads and for broadcasting and publication. Okay, so that kind of makes sense to us. Piping's brand name is unlikely to be recognized as an intangible asset. Why? Well, because we're unlikely to be able to price it accurately enough, all right? Reliably measure its cost. All right, what else do we have in the yellow boxes? If Piping is targeting younger customers, they must be deploying social media marketing campaigns. Yes, although of course older customers do use social media. I mean, you've got one talking to you right now. The younger people tend to use it more, I would suggest, than older people. All right, so moving on to the other part of that department, the marketing department, account management. Piping is the largest tea manufacturer in Northumbria, so it's the largest. So when it's the largest, we start thinking about things like economies of scale, all right, the existing establishment of distribution chains and so on, long-term relationships probably with customers and suppliers, all right. So all of these come with having been around for a long time, and also have led to us becoming the largest in the country. Most food retailers wish to sell Piping's products. Piping strives to maintain a strong relationship with major retailers by having a designated account management team in its marketing and distribution department. The team's function is to engage with buyers employed by retailers. Okay, so they have a team to maintain relationships, which kind of makes sense, and it's very common practice. Typically, a major retail customer will be assigned an account manager who'll be the designated contact between Piping and retailers' buying department. Account managers also seek to encourage buyers to place regular orders, increasing their spend as much as possible. So they manage a relationship by also encouraging bigger sales, okay? In return, for example, an account manager might be authorized to offer a discount in return for an increase in the retailer's regular order. Account managers also keep retailers informed about forthcoming promotions, such as new campaigns that will hopefully increase demand. Account managers frequently visit supermarkets to check the placement of Piping's products on the shelves. Supermarket shelf space is always limited, and the extent and location of products on the shelves can have a significant impact on sales. For example, products placed at eye level tend to sell better than those on higher or lower shelves. So you find, if you're selling to a supermarket, having your product, on the higher shelves at eye level is actually more expensive than having it at a lower level. Okay, so yeah, so that's the job of the account managers. All right, responsibility center. Account managers have some ability to influence revenues because they can offer discounts. Yes, so they have a responsibility center. They're not a cost center. All right. Customer profitability analysis. It may be the case that the administrative cost of managing some of these customers outweighs the value they provide. Yes, absolutely. However, all it says here is most food retailers. It doesn't tell us which retailers and whether they're large or small or all of them. All right. So, how much does it cost to maintain the relationship with a smaller retailer compared to the revenues that we get from that retailer? Also, conflict management. Important to consider different types of conflict that could occur with the account management. So yeah, absolutely. So you need to be able to handle any conflicts that may arise, and so you might be told something about a conflict in the exam which you would need to address. Piping's marketing distribution department keeps close contact with consumers to ensure that its teas remain popular. The company makes several varieties of tea, each of which aims to attract its own specific niche of tea drinkers. For example, Piping's strong flavor was developed 5 years ago because of feedback from a sizable minority of consumers who were using 2 bags to get the strength of flavor that they wished. All right, so they developed a new blend which produced a stronger flavor. Piping's marketing and distribution department also has a small team of sales managers who seek to expand Piping's export sales. So we already know that they're exporting, all right, and we now know that there's a dedicated team of managers. Although the company's brand image is strongly associated with Northlandia, there are nevertheless some countries in which Piping brands are popular. Also, several countries where retailers sell this tea to meet demand from local communities of expatriates who enjoy drinking Piping tea because it reminds them of home. Yes, well, we've already been told that, we've discussed that. IS 21 considers the financial reporting implications of exporting, absolutely, and we will be doing that. All right, how we recognize those. Potential exam scenario: Piping purchases an overseas tea manufacturer so it can service local demand. Well, we've talked about that as well. So moving on, just see how we're doing. All right. Social responsibility. Most tea plantations are located in developing countries, which has led to some controversy over the rates of pay and working conditions imposed on those workers. Piping, in common with most manufacturers, buys tea leaves from auctions, so the company has very little direct contact with the plantations themselves. The fact that prices are set at auction means that there is at least some transparency over pricing. Okay, so we talked about transparency of pricing earlier. All right, now, and we also talked about the fact that there is, or potentially, the risk that we are trying to not meet, or we're not meeting our corporate social responsibility obligations by exploiting, in inverted commas, these developing countries and the people that pick the tea. Okay. All right. Piping supports a number of local charities, other initiatives in tea growing countries. They intended to encourage plantation owners to treat their workers fairly. All right. So here's something that we can say that we are doing. All right. We are investing in these countries. All right. Initiatives also for practical support, such as schools, funding schools and medical facilities in tea growing regions that are too remote for government facilities to be available. All right, which is pretty strong evidence of our of us meeting our responsibilities. Piping's processes are designed to use resources efficiently and with the minimum of waste. Its production lines are maintained regularly in order to reduce the amount of power required for their operation. And so here again, we're talking about the environmental credentials. Products are designed to eliminate waste. For example, all packaging is recyclable and uses as little material as possible in order to reduce weight and so transportation costs. And then lower transportation costs means lower exhaust fumes in the environment and so on. Okay. All right. What do we have? Yes, piping tea bags and loose tea leaves can be recycled by consumers. The paper in tea bags is biodegradable, and used tea leaves make excellent fertilizer. Piper's packaging provides consumer advice on recycling. Okay, so fairly active on the environmental and CSR front. What do we have in our boxes here? Cost of funds. If piping faced controversy that negatively affected its share price, this could also affect the weighted average cost of capital of the company. Okay, so why is that? How does that happen? Just a quick reminder. If share price goes up, what that means is that a shareholder who's going to spend the higher amount on buying your share is going to want a higher return, yes, because they're facing a higher risk. And so to get the higher return, right, we need to reflect in our capital investment appraisal the higher risk that the shareholder faces. If the shareholder faces a higher risk, then our cost of capital is going to be higher because the shareholder wants a higher return. If our cost of capital is going to be higher, which is what we often use as our discount rate in capital investment appraisal, then to get a positive NPV, our cash inflows, need to be substantially higher than our cash outflows. All right. Now, if you think I've just spoken a strange language from outer space, what you need to do is you need to go back and look at your notes on F2 capital investment appraisal. Okay. So yeah, have a look at that. Make sure you refresh your memories because we'll be needing that knowledge going forward. TQM, elimination of waste, is a key tenet of total quality management. Okay, so we might be asked something about implementing, or the opportunities for implementing TQM program inside the company. All right, looking at on the right-hand side, the various notes here. Risk management, there's a risk that tea could be sourced from plantations that have exploited workers. That's absolutely true. We have very little control over the plantations and operations. All right, and so we need to be aware of that risk. Piping could potentially be involved with fair trade. So fair trade is an organization that makes sure that everyone in the supply chain behaves fairly. Okay. Now, a quick look at piping's management structure before our next pause. So we see the chief executive there. So this is the board here. We have the COO, marketing director, finance, HR director, and product development directors, all reporting to the chief executive. Karen Burugu, I've probably butchered that name, but apologies if you do really exist. Right, so what information? P2, transfer pricing, cross-departmental project work could result in the need charge out the use of department's resources, and this topic has been tested before. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that if we are producing a new product, remember we talked about expanding our product portfolio earlier. If we're producing a new product, who do we need to bring into that project? Well, certainly the product development director, but also the finance director. You know, do we have the money to buy the equipment that we need and so on for that new product? Certainly the marketing director, you know, how we're going to market it. In other words, it's going to be a cross-functional effort, and any time that is spent by each function on this project, right, will be then charged to that department. Okay, where the time was spent. So for this example, that department would be product development. Okay, so how do you charge work between departments? And then we have some non-executive directors, which is good news, but of course, as a quoted company, you would expect that it would have non-executive directors. We have a chair, Victoria Tsang, and 5 others. We're not told exactly what roles they have, but there we go. Okay. F2, related parties. Important to remember the names of all executives can be useful in IAS 24 type questions. So remember what IAS 24 is about. It's about identifying related parties and the service they're providing, and what you are giving them in return, if anything. It doesn't have to be a monetary return that they receive. All right. Okay, what else? So each of the executive directors, other than its chief executive, is responsible for a specific functional area. Marketing distribution is managed as a profit center, which kind of makes sense. Yeah, because that's where the products are actually sold from, or if you like, it's the last stop on the sale. And also remember, we have these people, these account managers who go along and encourage customers to buy. The other 4 functional areas are cost centers. Yes, they don't actually earn us any revenue, so nothing surprising there. All right, notes in the boxes, yellow boxes. P2 responsibility centers make sense for other departments of cost centers as their ability to generate revenue and profit is limited. Yep, we've already said that. P2, measuring performance. How is the performance of the marketing and distribution department evaluated? Now that is an interesting question, isn't it? How do we evaluate it? Is it by number of sales? Is it by volume? And so on. Okay, is it about meeting targets and so on? All right, so I'm going to pause here and we're going to move on to their business model, but we'll do that next time. Okay, I promised you a few minutes for Q&A, so I think we have about 10 minutes left. So the floor is yours, ladies and gentlemen. If there's anything you would like to ask, please do. Right, Felix, I'm exempt from P2 and haven't studied these for a few years. How crucial is the theory, or is it more about application, industry knowledge? The answer is it's crucial, Felix. Yeah, you're assumed because not only theory, it's also techniques. All right, and you're assumed to know those techniques in order to create an answer, to craft an answer. All right, so for example, if the question says, should they buy this piece of equipment or not, you're assumed to know how to do capital investment appraisal. All right, so yeah, you need to be familiar with it, and something like the AllAccess pass might be useful to you for that, Felix. Okay, some more messages. All right, I've got the textbooks. Would we get extra marks for quoting real life industry examples? Now, it's a really good point. Real life industry examples, always a good idea. It shows that you have been reading around the subject, and the answer therefore is yes. You put a small smile on the marker's face, and he or she is likely to want to want to help you. So yes, be more generous. Would you need to do capital investment calculations? Yes, very possibly, very possibly. Is there a potential digital question as the company does not have significant tech exposure? Well, it doesn't have significant tech exposure now, all right, but you know, your awareness of digital technology might be tested in a question which says, well, should it, you know, what options does it have for leveraging digital technology to improve its performance? Okay, so just because it isn't, you know, technically exposed right now doesn't mean you won't get a question on this, is what I'm saying, David. All right, which accounting standards would be examined? Pretty much all of the ones in F2. Okay, so we'll be going through some of these, all right, as we go through the questions and so on. All right, but always a good idea, please, to refresh your memories. I'm not going to suggest that you cherry pick particular standards and ignore the others. All right, so don't do that. All right, we will be going through most, if not all of them, as we progress. Yeah, purchasing a tea farm could be an investment. Yep, all right. Do we need to quote the standard number and then the standard name in the exam? So is accounting a crossover to other subjects here, or we do technical stuff? Yes, you will do technical stuff from F2, P2, and E2 potentially. All right. Well, it's up to you really which one you use, but essentially you are expected to know the technical stuff from all three and be able to use them, apply them to a case study. All right, Naomi, you're asking about exemptions. You did your degree in 2017, so you're not feeling confident about doing the May exam. I should do the August exam. Well, yeah, I mean, you know, at the end of the day, it really all comes down to how confident you feel and how much time we have in which to prepare based on your level of confidence. I think this is definitely a very personal answer or question to answer. I'm happy to have a one-to-one about it with you, all right, when that opportunity arises. Do we need to quote the standard number and then the standard name in the exam? Well, one or the other is fine, is the answer to your question, Beth. Millicent, should a communication topic question pop up based on how CIMA asked questions recently? How does one differentiate a communication question from a consulting leadership style? All right, Millicent, I think the thing to remember here is that you're not going to be asked a specific, you know, tell me what the theory is or what the particular consulting style, leadership style is, all right? But you will be asked to present your argument in a way that is appropriate for the audience and the topic, all right? So that is really what you need to bear in mind, rather than get stuck in the weeds of remembering all the theories. It's much more. Remember, the case studies is real world. It's much more about application, all right, than quoting theories. ET, I've already answered that question. One or the other. Either the number or the name is enough. And if you can't remember either of them, it doesn't matter. Just talk about what the standard says. All right. Don't just ignore it. Don't panic. Will there be another Zoom meeting on how to score pass marks with examples? Absolutely, yes. We'll be looking at past exam questions and so on. Do we need to take into consideration different minimum wages in different countries? Now, that's a good question, Harris. So, for example, if you're told in the question that, you know, country X has this minimum wage, which is lower than in Northland, all right, and therefore, if we have employees in that country, are we being unethical by paying them minimum wage? The answer is probably not, all right? Why? Because that wage is acceptable, maybe attractive in that country, and fair, all right? So it is ethical, okay? So it really depends on the question. Do we have to do ratio analysis in the exam? You don't have to, Renu, you don't have to do anything. All right, it's a question of what you choose to do to produce the best possible recommendation. And that may include ratio analysis, or it may not. It really depends. I mean, the question is highly unlikely to say to you, do the following ratios. All right, it won't do that. Remember, this is a real world situation. All right, I missed the first part of the webinar. Am I going to have access to the link today? And yes, I believe you are. I believe Thomas answered that question earlier. Everyone who's here gets a link to this day. Okay, where can we get the pre-seen material? Well, the pre-seen material is available on the CIMA website. Okay, of course. And of course, if you sign up for a course, you will have access to it here as well. Would world growth potential provided also reflect Northlandia, as the biggest revenue is from Northlandia? Not sure I understand the question. World growth potential. Are you talking about growth potential of revenues? Okay. Yes, Sonia, I can go through Postal. Yeah, I'm not sure about your question there. Delighted you enjoyed it, Felix. Found it useful. David, so yeah, as provided. Yeah, I mean, yes, it is. It is obviously. Let me just read your question again. Yes, it probably would reflect Northlandia, the world growth potential. Yeah, as Northlandia is a, certainly from the sound of it, a big player on the global markets. Okay, so the next meeting is going to be tomorrow, where we're going to go through an industry analysis. It's the answer to your question. Nicola, how does an increase in WACC affect investment? How does this affect the behavior of the company? No, what this does, Nicola, is if it reduces the NPV, then, okay, there are a number of things. What it means is that in order for an investment to have a positive NPV, it needs far higher cash inflows than cash outflows, right? So the company will not invest in projects or even evaluate capital investment projects unless that possibility exists. In other words, this is likely to be a high return project, okay? Also, in terms of reducing, has an increase in WACC affect investment? I mean, besides increasing discount factor, how does this affect? Yeah, so basically it affects the behavior of the company because the company will then only select those projects which have a greater chance of a positive NPV. Also, remember, most projects or most companies will have some kind of standard in terms of level of minimum NPV required before an investment decision is made, all right, on that. Okay, so I think, yeah. All right, so we're coming to the end of our time for today. All right. Okay, good. So thank you, Beth, for that. I'm glad you found it useful. And those of you who choose to sign up, I look forward to meeting you tomorrow. You wanted to know which course to sign up for? Is each part of the pre-seen dealt? Yeah, I mean, basically, we go through the whole of the pre-seen and we look at all of the topics. Rebranding, I didn't see that one. Let me see if I can find it, Sangeeta. Could rebranding potentially come? Are there any accounting standards we should focus on this? Rebranding, yes, it could, and the accounting standard would be the one related to intangible assets. You can look up which one that is. Potentially, yes, it could. I'm not sure it's likely, but it's, yeah, potentially. But we'll go through those, okay? We'll go through all of the possible, well, as many of the possible questions as we can in the time available. All right, excellent. Thank you all very much. And as I say, those of you who want to sign up and make that decision, which I would strongly recommend, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Is it at the same time tomorrow? I believe it is, yes. I believe that it is. I haven't accessed my, oh my goodness, 14 new messages. It is. Sonia has confirmed. Thank you, Sonia. It is at the same time. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Lovely to meet you all and see many, if not all of you, tomorrow. Okay, goodbye for now.